In a world that's just buzzing with new ideas, new apps, new inventions, how do you make sure your unique creation actually stays yours? It's a huge question, right? And the answer? Well, it all comes down to something called intellectual property. Think of it as this invisible shield for your best ideas. So let's dive in and figure out how it all works.
Okay, take a look at this thing. Seems pretty simple, right? A portable CD player. Maybe you even had one. But what if I told you that this one object is like a little fortress of legal protection? Seriously, it's not just one thing. It's a whole bundle of different ideas, and each one is shielded by a totally different type of intellectual property. We're going to take this whole thing apart, piece by piece.
And that really gets us to the main event. You've had that light bulb moment, you've tinkered, you've maybe built a prototype. Now what? How do you stop someone else from just swooping in and copying it? Well, the first, and you could argue the most powerful tool you've got, is something called a patent.
All right, so let's get right into it. Part 1, patents. This is all about protecting the invention itself. Not the name, not the look, but the core function, the clever new way that it works.
So what even is a patent? You can think of it like a bargain you strike with the public. You agree to publish all the details of your invention. I mean, everything, teaching the world how it works. And in return for sharing that knowledge, the government gives you a temporary monopoly. For a set amount of time, you and only you get the exclusive right to make money from it. It's a really powerful way to encourage people to innovate and then share what they've learned.
Now, if you're an inventor, you've basically got a few paths you can take. You could just give your idea away for free, which is nice, I guess, but doesn't really help you build a business. You could try to keep it a secret, like the Coca-Cola recipe. But for a physical product, that's almost impossible. Or you can file for a patent. And this is the key. Getting a patent is really the only way you can both operate out in the open and have the legal muscle to stop others from copying you.
Of course, you can't just patent anything you dream up. There are some really strict rules. First, your invention has to be genuinely new or novel. Second, it needs to have an inventive step, which is a fancy way of saying it can't be something obvious to an expert in that field. Third, it has to be useful. It needs to have some kind of industrial application. And lastly, it can't be for something illegal or immoral. So think of it like this: new, not obvious, and useful. Those are the big 3 hurdles you have to clear.
Now this is where things get super interesting. This slide shows what you can't patent, and it's based on source material from Pakistan. You can't patent a law of nature, for example. But look at that one right in the middle: computer programs, software. This is a massive point of debate around the world. In this legal system, pure software code is off the table. But in other places, like the US, there are all these complex ways you can patent software. It creates this really tricky and kind of confusing landscape for tech companies working globally.
So let's say you do it. You clear all those hurdles. You get your patent. How long does that exclusive protection last? The answer? 20 years. That's the deal. It's long enough to give you a real shot at getting back your investment and making a profit. But it's not forever. After those 2 decades are up, your invention becomes part of the public domain, and anyone can use it, build on it, and improve it.
Okay, so a patent protects how your product works, but what about the name you put on it? Let's move on to our next layer of protection. We're talking about trademarks, which are all about protecting your brand. Right, so a trademark can be a word, a logo, a specific sound, even a color. When you see the Nike swoosh or the golden arches or hear that Netflix da-dum sound, you instantly know who you're dealing with. The entire point is to avoid confusion. It tells you, the customer, where something came from, and it protects the company's reputation.
And here's the thing: not all trademarks are created equal. This slide shows it perfectly. On one side, you have strong marks. These are totally made-up words like Xerox or Google. They mean nothing else, so they're super distinct. On the other side, you have weak marks, which are just descriptive, like naming your company Quality Softwares. It's really hard to own common words that just describe what you do. So the more unique your name, the stronger your legal shield is going to be.
Okay, so we've covered how it works and what it's called. But what about just how it looks, the vibe, the aesthetic? That brings us to our third piece of the puzzle: designs.
And this is a really important difference. A registered design has absolutely nothing to do with how an object functions. It is all about the look and feel, the unique shape, the pattern, the texture. Think about the iconic shape of a classic Coke bottle. Even without the label, you know what it is. That's what a design registration protects, the visual identity that makes a product instantly recognizable.
So we've talked about the physical world, how a thing works, its name, its shape, But these days, a brand's identity lives just as much, if not more, online. And that brings us to a very modern intellectual property battleground, domain names and the whole mess of cyber squatting.
This table lays out the core of the problem perfectly. See, trademarks are registered by country or region. They're sorted into different classes of goods, and they go through a whole examination process. Domain names, on the other hand, they're global, there's only one of each, and it's just first come, first served. No review, no questions asked. You can see right away how these two completely different systems were just bound to clash.
And that clash has a name: cyber squatting. It's basically a digital land grab. Someone sees that a famous brand doesn't own its .com address yet, so they quickly register it, with the only goal being to sell it back to the company for a ridiculous amount of money. It's like holding a brand's online identity hostage, and it's a problem that comes directly from that mismatch between the trademark and domain systems.
Okay, so we've looked at all the individual pieces of the puzzle. Patents for function, trademarks for brand, designs for the look, and the digital twist with domain names. So now, let's go all the way back to the beginning and put it all together.
And here it is again, our old CD player. But now we see it in a totally new way. The technology inside, the laser that reads the disc, that's protected by a patent. The brand name printed on the outside, maybe Sony, that's a trademark. The specific circular shape, the way the buttons are laid out, that's a registered design. Oh, and the actual music on the CD, that's covered by copyright, which protects creative works like songs and books. See? 4 different layers of protection, all on this one single device.
And that really leaves us with the big question moving forward. These legal systems were designed for a world of physical things you could hold in your hand. But what happens now? Technology is this messy blend of hardware, software, and design, all tangled together. As those lines keep getting blurrier, how are our laws going to keep up to protect the next big wave of inventions? That's the real challenge.